Good morning and welcome to the podcast, Startup to Stock Exchange. I'm super excited for our guest today because, well, for many reasons. But first of all, because, sometimes when you speak to somebody over Zoom or by email or by phone, it's an entirely different friendship or relationship than when you meet them in person. And last week, I was fortunate to have the chance to meet with our guest today. His name is Yaki Baranes, and he's the CEO of a company called Quantum X Labs. And for those of you who are taking notes on the trading symbols, it's on the Nasdaq exchange, QXL. And we had the chance to meet face-to-face last week at the Four Seasons in New York City. And he's really an amazing guy with an amazing story. And I'm happy that he's here with us because the reason we don't get together more often when we're in New York is because he's based out of Israel. So that brings an entirely different part of the discussion that we're going to touch on today of what it's like to grow a company out of Israel. With that being said, Yaki, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So I think one of the points that our audience is going to really appreciate is that a lot of people are talking about AI and they're talking about energy, but at the hub of it all is this fancy word called quantum, right? Which is what you guys are focused on. So I want to hear about the journey. But before we do, can you just give us a super simple, for all of us that aren't engineers, high-level overview of what the company is, what you do, what you're looking to accomplish?
All right. So Quantum X Labs, as you said, is an Israeli company. And we are actually a broad spectrum quantum technology company. So that means that we are working on developing technologies on pretty much all of the current market categories of quantum. We are building a quantum computer. That's one. Second, we are working on software and simulation. And we are also building these sensing instruments that are based on quantum mechanics. An area called quantum sensing. So we are, developing different technologies on each of these segments, and we're seeing.
Let me ask you though, because I think when people hear about all this stuff, right, and it's pretty incredible that you're not just doing it in one sector, but you're trying to spread it out amongst three different at the same time, sort of hedging your bets. But, I think a lot of people that are not familiar with the details or the engineering or the mechanics, they think about quantum and they think that it's a lot of hype. Is it tangible? Is it real? What would you say to people about what you're trying to execute that's as we say in Hebrew, tachlis, right? That's real. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, myself and my team, which consists of professors and doctors, from physics, mathematicians, we're all seeing results by the day. So I can tell you that at least from our point of view, it's all real. Meaning, I think that technology have reached a level that you can say that it is mature enough to start thinking about using it for commercial applications, for sure. So first evidence is that we're seeing it. I see it in our lab every day. The second, I think, evidence is you see this big giants, companies, IBM, Amazon, Google, NVIDIA, all of them already have some kind of architecture that you can use via cloud services. So you can basically run algorithms on a quantum computer and get results. So this is another, evidence that this is already happening and, real.
I would have to imagine that to build a company like this, you have to surround yourself with a lot of smart people.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you and I once had a general conversation, does the CEO of a, medical device company have to have knowledge about medtech? Or, does a CEO of a cancer company have to have a medical degree? And I think, my perspective, probably you share that perspective as well, is that the role of the CEO is very different. That's like the storytelling and the raising capital and the presenting. But for a company in the quantum game, you've got to have a pretty smart team around you. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, of course. So when we started building this company, the first person I reached was an old friend of mine from the Navy, and he's a professor for uh, mathematics in Tel Aviv University. And I reached him and said, "Look, I think that there's the whole quantum market now growing, and I've heard about companies that are now being popping up. What do you know about it?" Said that he has some ideas, and he's been writing few papers, and this is how we started off, and since then we've gathered so many talents around us. I want to say that even people within the team don't necessarily always are they're not specialists in what the other or their peers are doing. So for me as CEO, I feel kind of comfortable because I'm sitting with everybody and everybody tells me what's going on. But there's also a lot of steering, a lot of managing this and making sure that you're not overshooting towards, let's say, uh, uh, too many research and not not a commercial path at the end.
Sure. You need to, it's because you dropped in a word a minute or two ago, very casually. I don't even know if you realized the word you said, but the word you said is that you were in the Navy. You're just like, yeah, I was in the Navy. So I feel like this is a good part to just back up for 1 second, because it goes back to that question, which a lot of people want to know about. And a lot of our audience that listens to this podcast, they're always curious, like, how does somebody end up in the CEO role? And what kind of dynamics and what kind of background did you have to get to this place? So I'm sure we'll include telling us a little bit about the Navy and the DNA that you need for that can be applied to being a CEO of a public company as well. But can you just back up and give us a little of your history?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think this is the first time I'm telling this publicly.
Oh, okay.
So this company is
The big brain kids. They're big insight.
Yeah, but this company, I mean, Quantum X Labs already hires, including me, 5 people from the same naval course. So there's an Israeli course that train you to become a Navy officer. It's you can call it a naval academy, but in Israel it's a very short process in comparison to other places in the world. When I was part of it, it was only a year and 8 months. So you're like straight out of school, high school. You're getting drafted, and 20 months, you're getting your ranks and you are commanding people. You're part of some kind of a naval platform, whether it's big ship, submarine, or in my case, patrol boats, in all sorts, in the borders and in other remote areas. And the reason I'm telling you that is because Quantum X Labs has 2 professors and 3 doctors, all from 2 doctors, 2 professors, myself, that are from the same. We were.
That's amazing. Maybe something in the food that you ate while you were there that got you all to go in this direction. But and I think people have to recognize that, and I've spoken about this in the past, how it's just so incredible that the lessons that you must learn for life, of course. But in terms of even, running a business, I think I mentioned to you, I had this story where the sales guy was going to hire and he, didn't have any experience. And then as soon as he told me he was a paratrooper in the IDF in Israel, I was like, yeah, you're not afraid of anything. Here also, you've got that amazing sort of upbringing that hardens you to an extent for what's to come in real life. Okay, so now you're in the Navy. Um, One of the things that I also found impressive about you is your background being exposed to publicly traded companies. From my experience, that's one of the hardest things when you have a Nasdaq listed CEO is that there's no IPO school, right? We can't go to school for 18 months and go to the IPO program or academy and learn how to do it. Give us some background after the Navy, what kind of exposure to public companies you've had, and then how did you end up, here in particular?
All right. So I think, generally speaking, if you're specifically about me, I think there are four building blocks. First, of course, is the Navy. More than 6 years, from 18 to 20 something. The other building block is, of course, school. So I did my degrees in. I have my MBA in business, and before that in finance. The third building block is I spent around 15 years in business strategy, actually, before starting with public companies, IPOs, investing in small companies, turning them into public companies. I did that for 15 years. So planning, business planning, I sat with a lot of CEOs, helping them shaping their strategy, helping them in implementing it. So this was long time been looking at other CEOs, how they, plan their business ahead, looking at markets, analyze trends, analyze competition. So that's another building block. And the last one is what you've mentioned, like the last 5 years, all capital markets, investing in companies, then helping them become public. I think I was part of 8 or 10 IPOs, all in Nasdaq. Even doing sometimes helping with the roadshow itself, talking with the CEO as a consultant in front of investors, and look at the challenges there. So yeah, so it really kind of gave me this ground base to start, and yeah, and I hope that I will succeed.
And here you are, and I'm sure you will. So let's go back to the quantum question again, because as I was preparing for the opportunity to speak with you, I think the upside of what's so interesting is just the many different sectors that quantum sits in the middle of. And when we were talking last week in New York, you told me about this concept of an atomic clock, and we were talking about how it touches the aerospace industry and the defense industry, which is super super hot right now on both sides. Tell us a little bit about that this gyroscope or this atomic clock, again in super plain English for those of us that aren't engineers. What is that all about?
Since you have people that are investing, I should say that the quantum sensing part, meaning the quantum gyroscope and the quantum atomic clock that we are going to talk about, both of them are considered as the most, not by me or by my company, but by the market, as the most mature segment, the most mature technology, and probably the first one to become fully commercialized, because it does not rely on a computer. So basically, you have an instrument. Right now in our lab, it's not bigger, sorry, than a laptop. And it's a working gyroscope, meaning it gives you your position, and if you need, of course, a course to, give you a direction, without using any type of navigation system. No GPS, no nothing. Now, how it works, that's maybe for another talk. But what your audience needs to know that it works on some kind of a quantum phenomenon that we implemented inside. So it's not plugged into any type of computer or anything. What makes it, you cannot jam it, you cannot spoof it. U.S. troops for now, at the moment, for example, in Iran, and Israeli militaries are suffering from something that is called GPS jamming or spoofing, meaning that your enemy is turning GPS off and causing you problems. You cannot navigate. You cannot send direct ammunition. Of course, you pretty much cannot move and cannot navigate. And GPS is considered by the aerospace and defense industry as a very old and hackable technology. So DARPA wants to replace it, and quantum navigation is the answer. Same goes with timing. Atomic clocks, quantum atomic clocks, they're not connected to any other timing system. They can tell, they can give you the time. They're very precise, very stable. 10 in minus 13. That was our last announcement. And we're seeing great demand for that. So once you have a quantum atomic clock, nobody can mess around with your timing, the timing in your instruments. So another great demand, by militaries all around the world.
And let me ask you a question, and I'm gonna say this in a nice way, because very often when I speak to a CEO and I ask this question, the answer is nobody. The question I ask a lot of CEOs is, tell me, who's your competition? And it's always like, we have no competition. We're the best of the best. I understand that. But if I held a gun to your head, like, what does the competition look like? And I'm not asking because I care who they are. My bigger question is, what makes this company unique? What's the differentiating factor?
Okay. So even, Argentina just lost, and I saw that even Messi recognized that he has a competition, all right? He did the right. Messi has a... No.
Okay.
So what makes us unique, I think, is first of all and beyond is the people, the talent, the team, the people that we manage that to work for us, to work for the company. Brilliant men and women, and I think that they are for sure, the key competitive advantage that we have. In terms of strategy, I think that being a broad spectrum, it's not just about hedging the risk. There's a reason for why we chose to be so spread, and the reason is because we do see the synergy. We do see the connection between the quantum algorithm people and and the experts that build the actual computer. We're seeing that there's we can achieve great building. We are able to build great stuff just by having these people sit in one room. While if you have only the computer people, like the ones who build the qubits, and then you have to, after they build something, you need them to run something on this computer, right? You need them to get the computer to the next level, and then when things maybe might get stuck a little bit. So we don't have it. We have people sitting together from all aspects of quantum technology. So this is another, I think, great advantage. And if I might say, I think that the fact that we're in Israel and we can pull, there's a pool of talents here that is not far away, because Israel is a small country, it's a small country. Everything is hour, 2 hours drive. You can sit with somebody from the Northern University, and then from somebody from the most Southern University. Get the talents in. People know each other. Obviously, there's also the Army connection, the Navy connection. So it's easier for us here since everything is so connected, I think.
Those are great answers. I mean, I think everybody's familiar with the amazing talent that comes out of Technion and Weizmann Institute, and that's a worldwide reputation. As a company that is on Nasdaq, I'm curious if you can remind me, how did you go public? Meaning, a lot of companies today will either do a direct listing, they'll do a SPAC, they'll do an IPO, an underwritten offering, or reverse mergers and others. But how did you go public, and why did you decide to go that route?
So we decided to do a reverse merge. After doing, as I said, I've been part of doing a lot of IPOs. I kind of learned about the process, and I learned about Nasdaq has been it's getting well it's getting harder and harder to get into Nasdaq.
It is absolutely.
And to stay there, which I think it's great. I think it's it's a good direction, in my opinion. I mean, you want the best of the best to be traded there, to stay there, and so I know that the IPO will be too difficult for us as limited.
I think it's great that you did it as reverse merger, and I think it's important for our audience to hear that and really see a success story. Hopefully you're a success story that is continuing to be successful, as I'm sure you will. But even where you are right now at between $5 and $6 a share, you hear these horror stories of reverse mergers over the years, and people shy away from it. But you're living proof that it can be successful with the right team and the right experience and the right story. I have two more questions. I want to be mindful of your time, and we'll try to wrap it up. But as somebody who has achieved what you have in various different segments, a lot of our listeners are either starting their own company or running their own company, thinking of going public. What's one piece of advice that you might give to people that are building their own company right now, looking to go to the public? Is there anything that stands out, like, hey, it's really important for people to know about this or understand this or approach it this way?
I think that, yeah, if you don't have any background in that and you don't have the time, to get the background, you started a company, you have a startup or a company that is already mature, you feel ready, or you get offers. Obviously, you don't have the time maybe to start learning about everything relating to the public market. To be honest, I don't think even people like yourself, after 20 years, you're still learning new stuff every day. And there's new regulations, so the environment is constantly changing. So I would recommend that in case you're not part of it, you've never done it, or if you don't have the necessary the entire information, you need good consultants. You need people that you can trust, that will guide you through. And you need from, I mean, in my opinion, capital market consultants, a very good lawyer, for transactions, and of course, accountants or an advisory for your accountants, for your financials. Those are the three major three types of consultants that at least I have, that helps me navigate this and understand this. But there'll always be challenges for sure. But I think that if you have a long R&D route, like in quantum, like in drug discovery, the public route, I think, is the best way to go, because you can generate. You could track attention and bring value to your investors before you reach the revenue phase, right?
Right. A lot of people say that even if they have the money, available to them. Like I know a lot of foreign issuers have the access to the money, so why go public? And that's because they want to be on the world stage. They want to be able to really spread their story. So last question is, of course, within the bounds of whatever you are able to tell us, but like, what are you most excited about for the company coming up, say over the next 6 to 12 months? Is there anything that that you can share with us that we could be looking forward to?
Um, what I can say is that uh, every roadmap for every segment that we have that I've written with with my team, uh, every timeline that we've put 2 years ago, we managed to we managed to just get results and milestones much faster than we thought. Okay, like for example, we thought 50 qubits for our computer would be somewhere in 2027, and we already have 50 plus qubits from late May, something like that, since we announced it. So I'm getting excited seriously every day. Every day there's something new. Every day we are witnessing something that we didn't expect, that we've put somewhere maybe 4 months from now, 6 months from now, and you're seeing it happening today. Whether it's some kind of scientific breakthrough or commercial breakthrough. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. We're excited to go along that journey with you and see where things land. And I hope you'll come back in 6 months or sooner and give us some updates. Meanwhile, if anybody wants to learn more about the company or what they're doing, or if you have any ideas for strategic relationships and things like that, correct me if I'm wrong. The company website is quantumxlabs.xyz. Is that correct? Fantastic. Also, I know Yaki is all over LinkedIn, so you can definitely connect with him there. And thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it.
Sad. I appreciate it too. Thank you so much.